Everybody points fingers at the wealthy like they're the bad ones, right? Most wealthy people started off poor, or they started off in the lower class and they climbed their way up. They learned things that other people didn't know and they executed on that. And that's what I think I want you to get out of this today. I want you to understand, what do the wealthy do that you and I were not taught? And why is it that the wealthy continue to get wealthier when middle class and the lower class have a hard time maintaining and sometimes actually fall to a lower level? I'm going to show you exactly how this works. So right here, how the middle class can become the wealthy. The 5%, you have to know some simple basic fundamentals. Essentially, you have to know how to mimic what the wealthy do. And that's what we're going to go over. So let's define the wealthy. The wealthy make $309,000 or more. It's a weird number and it varies by state, but that would classify you as the 5%ers. The upper class is defined by anything more than $122,000. Think about that. So if we got to make 122 to be considered upper class, but if you're in the middle class, that means you're between $40,001 to $122,000. Lower class would be somebody making $40,000 or less. All of you work for money. Some of you do a better job of actually making your money work for you than actually working for money. Let's start with, what do the wealthy do different with this money? If they're still working for it to a certain extent, the wealthy understand one step further. They understand how to make this money work for them. And not only that, they understand how to keep more of this money in their family. So they're not giving as much of it away to everybody else. Now again, don't think that all the wealthy that I'm talking about are generational wealth. They're just like you and they're just like me. They're nothing different. But what they do is different. They don't just have one income source. They have multiple income sources. And then what they've also understood is they've learned by applying different strategies and different concepts how to make that money work harder for them by running that money. And that income goes into different businesses. Not all the same business in most cases. Usually they have multiple businesses to protect themselves from liability, because as you start making more money, more people want to take what you've earned. So they split it up between multiple businesses, and these businesses do a few things. Number one, they provide business expenses. Each one of these businesses have expenses to run: payroll, office expenses, accounting, bookkeeping, things of that nature. But every one of these business expenses have deductions, and they can be used as tax write-offs. So the income that comes into these businesses, they can control how much of that money is going to leak to taxes, because one of the eroders of wealth is nothing more than taxes. So how do they minimize the amount of taxes that they pay? Well, this is one way. They use businesses and they use write-offs, and they do it fully legally. But then what they do is they also take income, right? They gotta live somehow. So they pay themselves a salary. And that salary doesn't go where you think it goes. All of you, including myself, prior to me learning this, where did we put our money? We'd go out and we'd make money. And where would all of our money go? Somebody else's bank, right? Our income would go into somebody else's bank. But you see, the wealthy changed just one thing. They changed where that income went first. That income goes into a private bank. And the private bank is not what you think. The private bank operates in an environment that provides them uninterrupted compound interest. And it's not at a bank, it's at giant mutually owned insurance companies. And those insurance companies allow the wealthy to use their money while still earning interest and dividends. Now, we're not going to go too deep into that, but I just want you to understand that where their money goes first is very different than where your money is going. So if the money goes into the private banks, what does the private bank serve to do? Well, the private bank is nothing more than a place to put your money in and take your money out of. Nothing different than your regular bank account. The wealthy put their money in the private banks, take that money out, and they make investments. And those investments are all different things. It could be stocks, bonds, US Treasury bonds, crypto, anything. And then what they do is, instead of just taking the income from these investments and just blowing it, they recycle and recapture that income back into their private bank. And then that recaptured income then is redistributed to things like real estate. One of the big reasons people love real estate is it's a tangible asset. It's probably one of the best investments on earth because it can provide more income. See what I'm saying? So now the real estate comes back, creating additional income that flows through the same cycle. And then some of the money that comes from their private bank is going to go to invest in alternative investments. And that could be lots of different things. It could be cryptocurrency, it could be private lending, I mean, lots of different things. But again, what do these alternative investments do? Create income. So you can see if we really trace what's going on, it's one giant circle. But now there's one additional step. You see, as they build this whole banking system, their business system, they also want to protect their money. They then siphon a lot of the money that they've built through their businesses, through their income sources, into trusts. And then what they do is they have then started to siphon the money from the trusts into foundations, okay? Foundations, think of the Gates Foundation, think of the Clinton Foundation, think of all the foundations you've ever seen. The wealthy take money from their trust, run it through charities, and why would they do that? One simple word: control. They want to control end-to-end everything they do. They're in control of their money through their private banks. They're in control of their businesses and their tax deductions. Now they're in control of protecting their money, and they're in control of how they move that money through foundations, because they have full investment control of the money. And this also allows them to do something very different than you. Most people earn W-2 income, which means they file a 1040. That's pretty standard. But what do the wealthy do? They still file a 1040, but only on the income that they take from their businesses. See, over here, when you get into trust and foundations, they file a 1041. You should look into that. You ever hear that the wealthy don't pay much in taxes? And you got to ask yourself, what are they doing different? They're just playing within the rules of the system. And that's something that you really need to learn. Now that we understand what the wealthy do, let's go to what do the middle class do? Well, most of the middle class still has a job, a JOB, where they trade hours for dollars and they make W-2 income. But the middle class also does something different that the lower class doesn't, is they typically will take some of that income and start a business. Most middle class individuals have some type of side hustle, side business. And that side business, just like we said with the wealthy, provides tax deductions, provides all sorts of things. You get write-offs, just like we were talking about with the wealthy, but they might only have one business, and typically the business is part-time. Because a lot of times the middle class has a full-time job. A lot of times the middle class don't take an income, but they should. So let's just write over here that they take an income, and usually what they will do is take that income and put that into a regular bank account. Now, your personal bank account doesn't pay you uninterrupted compound interest. A traditional bank, the only person winning on your traditional bank is the bank itself. They're making 400 to 1,300% more than you are. Think about that. Don't get mad. Don't be mad at the banks. They've just learned how to make money on your money. They've learned how to use other people's money, how to move it, and how to make more than you do. We can change that. We could just simply change for the middle class where their money goes first, which we'll cover in a second. But this is typically how the middle class operates. Usually a business provides additional tax write-offs, provides additional income, and if you haven't noticed, they typically have multiple incomes, and they're trying to get more income streams. So that's where the middle class differs from the lower class. So now let's talk about the lower class. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how we can go from lower class to middle class, and how we can take the middle class to the upper class, and how we can take the upper class to the 5%. Now let's talk about the lower class. Let's talk about the income the lower class makes. Now, as definition, the lower class makes less than $40,000. But they make money, and you know what happens? As they make money, all these different pieces of the money that they've earned goes to somebody else. Where the middle class might keep this much, the lower class might only keep that much. So when you take this dollar, or this $100, it really, for the lower class, becomes a whole bunch of money going to everybody else. Let me show you. So the lower class, they have an income, but that income then goes into, just like the middle class, someone else's bank. It goes into a traditional bank account. But here's the difference. You see, once they get the money, they've been taught to be good consumers, or just because they don't have enough money, the money that they do have goes to everybody else. It goes to pay bills, rent, have fun, go out. All their money, 90 to 95% of every dollar they make goes to somebody else. Remember what I showed you with that torn up $100 bill? That money just went to somebody else. They get to keep hardly any of it because they have never been shown how to actually have money go out and then come back in. This doesn't exist. They have not yet learned how to take some of the money back that they're giving away. And that's where we really have to start. You know, Warren Buffett had a really good quote. He said, if you don't find a way to make money in your sleep, you're gonna work until you die. This is what he's talking about. They're working to make an income, but all their money is going to everybody else and nothing, not much of it is being put somewhere where that money can actually work. So let's now discuss how do we go from lower class to middle class? Because this is the important part. And it's very simple. We don't really have to create more money. Here's what we need to do. So if the lower class takes their income and puts it into someone's bank, their money's going to everybody else, to debts, to cars, college maybe. I don't think the lower class is doing a whole lot of boats and all these, but I'm just showing you the money's going to somebody else. Like I said, how much of the money that they earn is going to somebody else? 90+%. So it would make a ton of sense that if we wanted to build wealth and we're in the lower class, then this is where we should look. But that's not where most people look. Most people look to take on more risk. They think to make more money, I gotta take on more risk. Or they think that they gotta go get a second or a third or a fourth, and you get the drift, job. Well, this might help. This will definitely get you there faster, but let's not focus on taking on more risk. And let's just focus on where all the money goes. So let's just say the car payment is $200 a month. But then let's say you got 4 credit cards and each of them are different. One's $500, one's $1,000, one's $2,000, and one is $5,000. And each one of these credit card debts has a minimum monthly payment. So let's just say all of them amount to $200 a month. And we're not gonna go the rest of the way down, but you get the drift. So if we really wanted to build wealth, well, if we've got $400 going out the door right here, well, here's what we should focus on. First, we wanna take the 10%, right? So out of this income that's leaving, we wanna look just at the 10% because that's the only thing that we can keep in savings. And we wanna change where that 10% goes first. So the savings, we don't wanna put it back in somebody else's bank. We wanna take this 10% and put it into their own private bank. Now, why would we want to put it into this private bank? Well, number one, the private bank offers a guaranteed interest rate, okay? And it also pays dividends. And it also provides control of your money. That's probably the single most important thing. So by just taking this 10% and saving it, and that 10% might be $100 a month, okay? It might be $200 a month. It might be $500 a month. It's gonna vary by person. So if we take this money and we put it into this private bank, where we're earning guaranteed interest, dividends, and we're in control of our money, and there's a lot of other advantages, but once this money builds up, in a few months, the first thing we'd want to do is we want to then come over here and look at our expenses, and we want to start paying these off. So we pay the first credit card off. Always start with the lowest balance. Doesn't matter what one has the highest interest rate, because you might actually be saying, well, this balance is only 500, but it's only 10%. And this one down here is 29%. Most people would want to pay the highest interest rate off first. And if it's the largest balance, you're working backwards. You're better off paying the lowest balance down to the highest balance, regardless of interest. So if we paid this $500 off, let's just say this $500 was $50 a month. We want to take this $50 a month that we just paid off, and we want to move that money back into your private bank. We're going to call this recycle and recapture. Because a lot of people would work really hard to make 10% when a lot of people are already paying 10% to somebody else's credit card, to somebody else's bank. So by paying this credit card off, you just made the return of 10% by paying the $50 you were given to that credit card back to yourself. Now let's keep going down the line. Then eventually, now we've got whatever amount you're putting into your private bank, let's call it $200 a month, okay? Now you got $200 a month plus 50. So now you're saving $250 and you didn't work any harder. Next, we pay off the $1,000 credit card. Now maybe that one's $70. And then we go down to the $2,000 and maybe that one's $80. And you can see the drift. So each time we pay off a credit card, we recycle and recapture the money you were giving away. And then eventually, once you pay all your credit cards off, then you pay the car off, okay? And you take the $200 from the car and you recycle and recapture that. So we just were able to put $400 of extra money back into your private bank, and you didn't work any harder, you didn't take on any risk, and you didn't really change anything. You put yourself back in control of your money. This right here is exactly how you would go from the lower class to the middle class because you were able to take back the wealth that you're giving away to everybody else. Now let's look at how we go from the middle class to the upper class. Now this one's a little easier because the middle class is already almost there. They just need to change just one thing. Now, if you remember, the middle class were already a little further ahead because they had already figured out that they needed to create part-time passive income. Some middle class are full-time business, but they have multiple income streams. So we're already there. But one of the problems that the middle class has is that they're still putting their money in somebody else's bank. They're still giving up control. So the number one problem here with the middle class is control. They are not in control. All the income they're making through their business, through their W-2 is all going into somebody else's bank. Here's what we need to do. We need to take back control. And remember, that's very simple to do. We already have the business creating income, but what we want to do then is go from the regular bank and we want to create a private bank. Why do we want to take money and change one thing and change where that money goes first? Well, because we want to earn uninterrupted compound interest on this money. Then once we do this, now we can start mimicking what the wealthy do, because really this is where it comes. Now we have one business with the middle class providing income, but now it's going to a private bank, and from that private bank, we then can use this money, and we can use this money without interrupting the flow of interest you earn. It's called uninterrupted compound interest. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this private bank money and we're going to invest in additional businesses, or we're going to actually take and use some of this money for investments, or some of this money can go into real estate, or all those other things. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our private bank to create additional income sources. Then these income sources are then going to pay money back into our private bank. The other thing we got to really focus on, the middle class loves paying taxes. I'm just kidding. If we don't want to pay taxes on as much money, what we got to start doing is really focusing on how do we run our money through the business, and how do we get more tax deductions here, and then how do we create more deductions through these other businesses like the real estate, because now all of a sudden we start segregating all the money. And what we're doing is we're compartmentalizing our income streams into tax advantaged places. Private banking, real estate is certainly tax advantaged if done properly. And then businesses, multiple businesses. Let's start layering on a few more businesses that are all creating additional income driving to your private bank. See, if you do this, you will then be able to start mimicking exactly what the wealthy do. Is everybody following this? Do you understand that all we're doing is we're changing one thing, and then we're really mimicking exactly what the wealthy do, what the 5% do with their money. It's all you need to do. And to do it, it's so simple, but you need to change your mindset, because no matter how much we teach you, no matter how much you learn on YouTube or different courses and trainings, you still have to apply that knowledge. And you still have to get your mindset right that this is possible. You can live like the wealthy. It doesn't matter what stage you're at. It's gonna take time. Building wealth is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Are any of you sprinting through life? How does that feel? Feels like you never stop and smell the roses, right? Well, understand that building wealth, all the things I'm showing you, this isn't an overnight thing. This isn't a get rich quick thing. This is just something that will take time. But if you stay true to it and you're consistent and persistent, you absolutely, 100%, I've seen it happen thousands of times. You can go from the lower class and move from the lower class to the middle class, change just a few things, or one thing in this case, and that will move you into the upper class. And then if you want to go to the 5%, all we need to do is keep focusing on more businesses, more income sources, and just keep adding on. Really is that simple, folks. So the wealthy are the wealthy because they never stop moving their money. They're never not in control of their money, and they never stop learning. You know, they haven't hit the arrival syndrome. They hit goals and they move to the next goals just like you. I always quote a Will Rogers quote, and Will Rogers said, "The biggest problem in America is not what people like you don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so." Don't allow other people and their ideologies to change where you're going. If you like this video, I have a lot more videos showing you exactly what this private banking is, how this works, and also, very important, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get a lot more. And not only that, I want to give you something. I'm going to give you a free booklet that we just did. It's called Drifting Away from Traditional Car Buying, How You Can Keep Both Your Car and your finances in the fast lane. And I want to give this to you for free. This booklet will show you how to get all the money back for all the cars you ever buy, drive, and own. So if you want that booklet, all you got to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then don't forget, like I always say, make sure you smash the alerts button so you know the new videos that are coming out. And grab a copy of this book by going to chrisnaugle.com and click on it, and we'll send you the book. See you soon.